Hey, everybody. Did you miss me? Sorry I'm late. All right. How is everyone doing tonight? Everybody soak in some sunshine today. I hope that everybody is working on a good tan today. Who we got in the chat tonight? Dave and Amy Jessing, congratulations on being the first comment tonight. Appreciate you guys coming out. DW, how you doing, my man? Doug and Margie are with us as they're driving in the car. They went down to visit grand dog Quinn today. So, hey, Teresa Bitters. Hey, Daryl Louth. Joyce Koenig. Hey, DW, I want to reiterate what Joyce said. She actually sent me a text about how good the produce at Kroger is today. So I know she was very impressed. So good. Tim and Candy are in the house. Hey, Suze. Hey, Scott Moran. Hi, Jan. Hey, Angie Myers. And yeah, DW, we know you're doing some great work out there at Kroger's. Teresa would like to know if the Whitlings are on 33. My guess is they probably are. Miriam also says the flower selection is good at Kroger. Also, Kroger getting some props tonight. All right. Yes, they are on 33. Doug says Candy and Tim are in the house. Amy is also in the house, and she had some friends over today. What about that social distancing there, Amy? All right, Teresa, have you come up to the Russell's Point intersection? We live about 10 minutes from there. Oh, let's see, it's a small world. Amy, Mrs. Susan, and let's see here. Who else we got? Joyce also agrees the flowers are good. Yeah, the Whitlings are on this side of the intersection now. Good evening, Kim Kill. Hey, Jess Mack, how are you? And all right, good. So who else we got here? Miriam, good. Yeah, church camp was canceled. Caleb was crushed. Hey, Bill Har. Hi, Sherry Louth. Hey, Cheryl. Eric Gurman, great weather. Hope you and Laura got a walk today. Hi, Crystal Dove. Hey, Marge Tangeman. It's a beautiful day for sure. Amy says yes, there was social distance. You better be. So, or else I'm gonna do the whole thing tonight. I'm gonna do the whole thing tonight in a mask, just for safety's sake. So, all right, I'm already sick of this thing. So there you go. All right, cool. And all right. Well, tonight we're going to skip ahead. We've looked at the three waves of the friends. I'm going to talk about tomorrow morning at the end of the study. Don't let me sign off until we're done. I'm going to come back and talk about tomorrow morning and just kind of reiterate where we are. I will say now, any of you who may be able to be with us at 7 o'clock in the morning to help carry some speakers and run some wire, we don't need a whole bunch of people. I've already got a couple, but if a couple of you fellas could come out in the morning, that would be great. But if not, that's okay too. So, okay. Now to Job. What we're going to look at tonight is Job. As I've told you a couple of times, Job runs in 3 cycles. Okay. So you have the beginning stuff. You have Job's opening statement. Then you have Eliphaz speak, Job respond. Bildad speak, Job respond. Zophar speak, Job respond. That goes through 3 times. Okay. So after 3 times, we're going to find out that after 3 times, the friends kind of are like, well, he ain't budging on this. And apparently, and to my knowledge, we haven't been told this, so we have to make an assumption. These guys, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and Job, were having this debate in a public place. So I know that Job, it says, was outside of the place because he had boils and he was so sick. And the 3 friends, which again, I'm not sure that's what we should call them, but that's what the Bible calls them. So come and sit with them and they have a discussion. Well, apparently there were people watching. You only want fellows to help tomorrow. Are you calling Women Week? No, Sherry, I would love to have you come and help. And that would be awesome. I know good, healthy, and strong health teachers such as yourself will be a great help if you want to come carry some speakers. I think my point is we didn't want too many people, or else we are defeating the whole point of social distancing if I've got 75 people there helping. But no, Sherry, you're welcome to come. Love to have you. And I know you're saying that with a wink. So, all right, anyway, so apparently this discussion was happening with in front of witnesses. There must be people like watching. Sometimes they'll have a public forum or a public debate. Apparently, this must have been what's happening because there are people in the crowd watching. Well, after Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, who were participants in this debate, failed to get Job to acquiesce. I don't know what else to say. Say, "Oh gosh, I'm awful." When they failed to get that, somebody jumps up from the crowd, and he basically has a breakdown or something, and he just completely goes off. And he goes on. He gives what I believe to be the longest speech of the whole book. Job's speech toward the end might be a little bit longer, but he certainly speaks more than Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. And he just, man, he is he's a fiery guy. So that's the guy we're looking at tonight, this mysterious Elihu character who has not been around at all, not mentioned. And the weird thing is, when we get to the end, I've made a real big deal up to this point talking about Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, how God says those three were wrong. Well, I lost my train of thought. When God speaks at the end, he says Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar were wrong. Doesn't mention Elihu. Now, does that mean that I think Elihu is correct? No, because I don't know if you guys are going to like this or not, but go with me on this. Elihu was probably an addendum to the proceedings. He was probably added into what I want to say, give some energy to the presentation. Anyways, whatever it is, whether he actually happened or he was a later addition by a scribe, or else he was a part of a different scroll that got mixed in with Job's scroll, whatever happened, however he got there, his presentation is clearly where God wanted it to be. So he has a purpose in being here. God wanted this to be included in Job's story. But it's just interesting that he shows up, he has this little spout off, and then he vanishes and he's not mentioned again. And if you have any questions about that, ask them as we go along. But tonight, where we're going to start at is Job 32. This happens at the conclusion of the arguments from the three friends. So the three friends have had their say, and so on and so forth. And in fact, I think it even says, let me go back real quick. Oh, see, I don't have my pages in order anymore. There's Job 30. Okay, Job 31. I'm sorry here. I'm just running back here to check this because I want to make sure I'm telling you correctly. Okay, so Elihu's speech actually comes after Job's speech. So Elihu speaks right before God does. So basically, Job gets, okay, here it is. In Job 31, or I'm sorry, Job 31, at the end of the verse, which is verse 40, it concludes with, Job's words are ended. So that's Job 31 is kind of the break off. So you've got the 3 rounds of discussion. Job makes what appears to be a closing statement. So everything appears to be done. But you'll notice Job has 42 chapters. So it's not like the book is going to end after chapter 31. So in chapter 32 is when Elihu jumps up and he is mad at literally everybody. I'm not even going to have to explain that. I'm just going to read it to you. He's mad at everybody, and he just goes on. And then finally, when Elihu shuts up, that's when God comes down and says, all right, boys, now we're going to set this straight. And he says, everybody kind of sit down here a second, and I'm going to talk this out with you. So, and we'll get to that tomorrow night. But tonight we're going to start here in Job 32. And we're going to just take a look at this. Okay. So remember, Job's closing statement just ended. He is an impetuous young man. Yes, Cheryl, he is. You won't need me to explain that to you. You're going to see that for your own self. So, chapter 32, verse 1. Job's three friends refused to reply further to him because he kept insisting on his innocence. Okay? They couldn't talk him out of it. They couldn't win the argument. The debate continued. Whether or not they think Job was right or wrong, Job didn't budge on his position. So after 3 rounds of pounding the poor guy who, remember, just lost everything he owned, all of his children, and his health. I mean, that's the guy they decided to argue with. After losing all that, after 3 rounds, they're like, look, we ain't getting nowhere. So they're all silent. Okay. Then Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, of the clan of Ram. So again, I mean, he's identified more specifically than anybody else. Job is from Uz, and then 3 friends, their hometowns are mentioned. But this guy, we know his father, we know his clan, and we know his nationality. So we know more about him than we know about the rest of them as far as who he is. So Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite from the clan of Ram, became angry. Okay, I've read that much to you. Does it sound like he's going to make a coherent argument that is compassionate and well thought out and, uplifting to everyone who hears it? To calm the waters, going to bring people into the fold, going to invite people to, into relationship, build bonds and friendship. I mean, just based on what I've read to you, do you think that this guy's about to do that? Yeah, they call Job a windbag. Elihu takes the cake. That's right. Elihu is about to take what the other 3 guys. And remember, I haven't been exactly kind to them either. I mean, their people skills left a little to be desired. Okay? So they got angry. He's going to go off the rail. So here we go. He was angry because Job refused to admit he'd sinned and that God was right in punishing him. I mean, let's just let that statement sit for a second. Elihu is mad, so mad that we're going to find out the circumstances of this here in a second. But he's so mad that he can't contain himself. So he jumps up and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are stupid!" And Job, what the heck? And he's going to say this to a man who lost everything, had 10 children killed, lost his health, and is sitting outside scraping himself with a piece of pottery. That's what he's down to. And he is so angry that poor man won't say that he deserved what happened to him, that now he's going to go off for, how many chapters does this go on? Let's see, 36, he's still going. 37. So he's going to speak for 5 chapters. He's going to yell at Job, the guy who lost all this stuff, for 5 chapters because Job won't admit that he deserved what happened. Anybody have a comment about that? Anybody have anything you'd like to say about that? 5 chapters. A 5-chapter lecture, that's pretty severe. A 5-chapter lecture to a guy who just lost everything, pretty severe. 5-chapter lecture to a guy who lost everything, and the reason for the lecture is he won't admit God, he deserved what God gave him. Wow. I mean, that's pretty severe. But that's what he's motivated by. He's so mad that Job won't say that he deserved what he got. By the way, even if you ever think this, for the sake of what little sanity that your pastor has left, don't ever say this to anybody, please. Even if you think it. Yeah, gall. We're talking epic amounts of gall, Teresa. No doubt about it. Okay, now we may ask ourselves, if this guy's this fired up, why did he wait until now? Verse 4. Elihu had waited for the others to speak to Job because they were older than he. So he's a young guy, and he's a tad on the pompous side, Tim. But when he saw they had no further reply, he spoke out angrily. So he's breaking protocol. I mean, there was a way these things were supposed to happen, and whatever way it was, and I don't want to get into the whole deal about it, but essentially Elihu was supposed to sit there and shut up. So he's not even supposed to be talking at all, and he has a 5-chapter rant. And he's doing it angry. Remember, angry at Job with everything he's went through. Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, said, I am young, you are old, so I held back from telling you what I think. Just take in what I'm reading to you. Just take it in, and I'm going to ask you to comment on it when I stop. Okay, so just kind of absorb this for a moment. So I held back from telling you what I think. Verse 7. I thought those who are older should speak, for wisdom comes with age. But there is a spirit within people, the breath of the Almighty within them, that makes them intelligent. Sometimes elders are not wise. Sometimes the aged do not understand justice. So listen to me. Let me tell you what I think. I've waited all this time, listening very carefully to your arguments, listening to you grope for words. I have listened, but not one of you has refuted Job or answered his arguments. And don't tell me he's too wise for us. Only God can convince him. If Job had been arguing with me, I would not answer with your kind of logic. You sit there baffled with nothing more to say. Should I continue to wait now that you're silent? Must I also remain silent? No, I will say my piece. I will speak my mind, for I am full of pent-up words, and the spirit within me urges me on. I am like a cask of wine without a vent, like a new wineskin ready to burst. I must speak to find relief, so let me give my answers. I won't play favorites or try to flatter anyone, for if I tried flattery, my Creator would soon destroy me. Your comment. You heard what I read. You can go look at it, Job 32. What do you think? I mean, honestly, of all the people who speak in this book, Elihu is literally the easiest one to understand because he is pretty straightforward. So we'll start with this. What is his opinion of Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar? What is his opinion of them? His opinion of Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. Bill Harris says arrogant. I think Bill Harris correct. I mean, arrogant almost doesn't quite get there, really. But yes, he's definitely in that vein. He has a relatively high view of himself, I think is safe to say. He does not respect them or their position, Cheryl. Clearly, he does not. Even though they are elders, they are not smart Sues. That is true. He thinks that. I'm a Gen Xer. And, we Gen Xers, we don't stand for anything. At least that's what they tell me. And, this is the way I look at millennials, right? They think they know everything, think they own the whole world. And, because they're so different from every other young generation coming up. And, no respect. It's like respect your elders before I smack you around, right? I mean, that's kind of how we are with this. And he sounds like a politician. Man, I hate that you're right, Candy, but you are. I can't dispute that. Teresa says all he had to say was, "Here's what I think," but he puffed up his own opinion before he even said it. Yeah, he. Because honestly, I read a whole chapter. I read 20. Well, he didn't speak the whole time, but I read the whole first chapter, and he didn't really say anything except for the fact that everyone's stupid but me. And, I guess that's one of the downfalls of being the smartest man in the world is everyone else is stupid, which I guess that's kind of where Elihu's at. He probably does not respect any of the elders. Cheryl, my only way I would adjust your statement is I would throw out the word probably because there's not a lot of respect going on here for anybody. I mean, not for Job, not for the other three guys speaking, not for anybody. And finally he said, look, I've waited for you guys to get it right and y'all screwed it up. So I'm going to have to get in here and fix this. Okay. So a lot going on here. A lot going on. Elihu, well, if I was there, I'd probably want to stab him. Reading it from outside, I'm sorry, it kind of makes me laugh. Doesn't it kind of make you laugh? I mean, he reminds me of a 5-year-old who's trying to explain something to me, uh, and they're saying words and thinking they're just putting me in my place, and it's really entertaining to watch. That's how I see Elihu. I mean, he is going to go at it. So, all right, we actually might we'll see how we're doing. We're doing pretty good on time. We might actually get to all this tonight. All right, so I'm going to go on to chapter 33. I'm going to read a little piece, then we'll talk about it. Job 33, verse 1. The problem is when people set themselves above others, they usually come out looking like the fool. Cheryl, I wish I could have that printed on a T-shirt and like wear it places, or maybe put that like on the sign out at the high school, because that is exactly what happens. What is the saying? Somebody help me. What's the famous saying about asking a question? It's better off, if you don't understand something, it's better off to be quiet rather than speak and remove all doubt. Somebody help me with that quote. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes if you want to, you don't know what's going on, you're better off not asking a question because you don't want to start talking, because then people will know you don't know what's going on. So help me out with that quote, somebody. But that's Elihu, man. His mouth runs a lot faster than his brain, and nothing good comes from that. All right, Job 33. Listen to my words, Job. Pay attention to what I have to say. I guess he's going to say something important. Now that I have begun to speak, let me continue. Okay, at this point, like, dude, all right, spit it out. I speak with all sincerity. I speak the truth, for the Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. Answer me if you can. Make your case and take your stand. Well, that almost rhymes. Look, you and I both belong to God. I too was formed from the clay, which is something Job said. So you don't need to be afraid of me. I won't come down hard on you. Okay, friends, I'm 7 verses into this chapter. Has he said anything yet? He hasn't offered any proof. He hasn't given he hasn't said anything. He put a bunch of words together, but he hasn't said anything. Going back to Candy's extremely astute observation, like a politician, the more he talks, the less he says. Verse 8. You have spoken in my hearing, and I have heard your very words. You said, I am pure, I am without sin, I am innocent, I have no guilt. God is picking a quarrel with me, and he considers me his enemy. He's put my feet in the stocks and watches my every move. But you are wrong, and I will show you why. For God is greater than any human being. So why are you bringing a charge against him? Why say he does not respond to people's complaints? For God speaks again and again, though people do not recognize it. He speaks in dreams, in visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they lie in their beds. He whispers in their ears and terrifies them with warnings. He makes them turn from doing wrong. He keeps them from pride. He protects them from the grave, from crossing over the river of death. This sounds a lot like Bildad, actually, if I remember correctly. I think I got the right friend. Sounds a lot like him. This is back to the God is fair argument. Clearly, Elihu comes from that. God's not going to make this calamity come upon you unless you got it coming, Job. Thank you, Bill Haar. It is better to be silent and thought a fool than speak up and remove all doubt. That's the quote I was trying to get to. Yep. Thank you, Bill. So that's the idea here, is that he's saying God is fair, and if this is happening, there has to be a reason for this kind of thing to happen. There has to be a reason. Now, and Elihu's going to go through some possible reasons. Verse 19. Or God disciplines people with pain on their sick beds, with ceaseless aching in their bones. They lose their appetite even for the most delicious food. Their flesh wastes away, their bones stick out. They're at death's door. The angel of death waits for them. But if an angel from heaven appears, a special messenger to intercede for a person, and is declared that he is upright, he will be gracious and say, rescue him from the grave, for I have found a ransom for his life. Then his body will become as healthy as a child, firm and youthful again. When he prays to God, he will be accepted, and God will receive him with joy and restore him to good standing. Okay, here's one of my many problems with Elihu's argument. How many people, including Elihu himself, how many people satisfy his definition of a good person? How many people have ever satisfied in Elihu's whole world, in the whole world at that time? How many people satisfy his definition? How many people never were in pain in a sick bed? How many people never had an illness where they became weak and their flesh wasted away and their bones began to stick out? How many people had an angel of death at their door? How many people had an angel from God appear and declare a person upright and they got back up and stayed up for any length of time? My friends, by Elihu's definition of what it means to be good, nobody in Elihu's world satisfied that. He had a standard of goodness that was so high, nobody got there. Why? Because all of them died. Eventually, now it may have been some time, and there may have been a period of time when they were sick and got better. Certainly that happened for some people. But every one of them died. There are no exceptions. So if the standard of what it means to be good is that you can never get sick and never die, then go ahead and start the stopwatch, friends. Everybody's going to fail this one. This standard is so ridiculously high, no one's going to get there. Nobody in Elihu's world. And what would be the purpose of an impossible standard? Why would God set an impossible standard? For this explanation that God, the Elihu claims came from God, what would be the purpose of God setting a standard so high that nobody's going to reach it? What would be the purpose of that? There's nothing to strive for. I'm 45 years old, and you all know that I enjoy going out to run, but I don't have a goal to set a world record in the mile because it's not going to happen. That's a goal I'm never going to get to unless you're going to put a jetpack on my back, and probably not even then. All an impossible standard does is create discouragement. And that's why a goal like this is not helpful. You need to set attainable goals. And if Elihu's definition of what it means to be good is that everything works out for you in the end, and you never pass away, you never die. And again, remember, we're prior to Jesus at this point. What would be the purpose of why would God do that to people? And look, I get it. I've read Leviticus. The standard set in Leviticus is pretty high. I will absolutely give that to you. But I don't understand, under any circumstances, why God would have an expectation of people at that time that they would be so good that they would never get sick, never die. That standard makes no sense. And we know from Job's example, it doesn't even work. And we're going to actually get from God himself that it doesn't work. But what I'm saying is, Elihu and all of his fiery passion, I guess, he's putting out a standard that nobody's getting to. Nobody's going to make it. All that's going to do is lead to a mountain share of disappointment. And how long are you going to be able to maintain your faith in God when all it does is disappoint you because you have a standard? You have an expectation that nothing bad is ever going to happen. Friends, the first time something bad happens, what's the point? Faith has to mean something else. Faith doesn't mean the easy travel; it means deliverance, and that's a whole different thing. So, all right, verse 27. He, meaning the person who was ill, he will declare to his friends, "I have sinned and twisted the truth, but it was not worth it. God rescued me from the grave, and now my life is filled with light." Yes, God does these things again and again for people. He rescues them from the grave so they may enjoy the light of life. Mark this well, Job. Listen to me, for I have more to say. If you have anything to say, go ahead. Speak, for I am anxious to see you justified. But if not, then listen to me. Keep silent, and I will teach you wisdom. Teresa, the only purpose of an impossible goal would be to create fear. And I don't know why else you would have one. And Setting a standard nobody's going to reach would create lots of fear, no doubt about it. So, all right, so Elihu invites Job to speak and then keeps talking. So apparently Job was supposed to speak over him. I'm not sure. All right. All right, let's go into verse 30 or chapter 34. Then Elihu said, "Listen to me, you wise men. Pay attention, you who have knowledge." Job said, "The ear tests the words it hears, just as the mouth digests." Job said, "The ear tests the words it hears, just as the mouth distinguishes between foods. So let us discern for ourselves what is right. Let us learn together what is good." For Job said, "I am innocent, but God has taken away my rights. I am innocent, but they call me a liar. My suffering is incurable, though I have not sinned. Tell me, has there ever been a man like Job, with his thirst for irreverent talk? He chooses evil people as companions." I'm assuming he's referring to the three friends now. "He spends time with wicked men. He has even said, 'Why waste time trying to please God?' Listen to me, you who have understanding. Everyone knows that God doesn't sin. The Almighty can do no wrong. He repays people according to their deeds." Again, we're back to the fairness principle. "He treats people as they deserve. Truly, God will do no wrong. The Almighty will not twist justice." Now he's quoting Bildad. I'm pretty sure Bildad said that exact line. Did someone else put the world in his care? Who set the whole world in place? If God were to take back his spirit and withdraw his breath, all life would cease and humanity would turn to dust. Actually, that line I agree with. That's probably true. "Now listen to me if you're wise. Pay attention to what I say. Could God govern if he hated justice? Are you going to condemn the Almighty Judge? For he says to kings, 'You are wicked,' and to nobles, 'You are unjust.' He doesn't care how great a person may be. He pays no more attention to the rich than to the poor. He made them all. In a moment they die. In the middle of the night they pass away. The mighty are removed without human hand." He's almost contradicting himself here, because he says the Lord rescues those who are sick, and then he talks about how people die, which they do. I mean, again, it's a standard nobody's going to get to, and that it's such a problem. All right. All right, so he goes on here for a little bit. Let me skip down here. I want to get something we can actually sink our teeth in and discuss a little bit. All right, let's go on to the next chapter. He's going to go on in this puff piece here for a while. Let's go down to 35. Now here, the argument gets a little bit more intense, and I'm going to have a couple questions for you. So get ready to jump in the chat here. Hold on, I got to plug in my computer. There, sorry about that. Okay, so this is chapter 35, verse 1. Then Elihu said, now again, you've heard what Job has said all along. Then Elihu said, "Do you think it's right for you to claim I am righteous before God?" Do you think it's right for you to claim I am righteous before God? Let me translate this question for you. Is it right? I mean, this is kind of the fundamental question all three of the friends have fought about. So this is the question I would like you to jump in the chat and let's talk about for a few minutes here. Now, again, I've already kind of given away the end, so you kind of know what the book, where the book of Job is going to come out on this question. But is it right for Job to say he didn't deserve this? Because he does say that, and he says, "I don't deserve this." And he goes on for a long time about how he didn't deserve this. He didn't do anything wrong, blah, 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 on and on. And no matter how hard the three friends and Elihu try to say, "Well, Job, you kind of did. Elihu, don't give it up. I'm sorry, Job, don't give it up. He does not quit. Do you think that's the right thing for Job to say? Now, again, you know it is because I told you God said it is. But So, since this is kind of given away at the end, that it's okay for Job to maintain this position regardless of how much opposition he's facing, where is the line between what Job does and arrogance? Think about that with me for a second. Because, and I'm not going to give any specific examples because I don't want to get into any discussions on anything specific here, but there are plenty of people in our world who are engaging in behaviors that are not great. And in our world today, they take Job's route. I'm okay in doing what I'm doing. Who has a right to tell me what I can and can't do, and so on and so forth. We look at some of those behaviors as destructive, which is exactly, again, the position of the three friends. And they're trying to help Job out by getting him to, just admit this and let's get this over with. But Job never does. And I'm not going to speak for any of you, but there's been plenty of examples out in the world where I have seen people justifying bad behavior of all kinds, and I have been very annoyed by it. When they say, whatever it is that they say, but they're justifying their behavior. All right, Candy, and I'll give you that. He was blameless in God's eyes, and that does make a difference. But how many times have we been, let me rephrase that question. How many times have we seen people take Elihu's position, where you've got somebody engaged in some kind of behavior and whatever, and people are upset about it, and they're fighting about it, and they're upset about it, and on and on. And the person that is engaging in the behavior that people find to be questionable are pushed and prodded to try to come up with an explanation. Their explanation is, I am justified, I am right, which is Job's position. And then the other person reacts like Elihu reacts. Is that question clear? How many Elihus have we ever seen speaking to people who are angry at other people for trying to justify behaviors they don't agree with? You ever seen an Elihu? Somebody jump in the comments and say, if I've ever told you the story of the Billy Graham crusade in Cincinnati and the protester that was out there. If you've heard me tell that story, or if I've already told it, or you already know it, I won't tell it again. But somebody tell me if you've heard that story, and if you haven't, I'll tell it here briefly because I think it illustrates Elihu's point. Have you ever heard my Billy Graham and the protester crusade, or the Billy Graham crusade and the protester I ran into? Let me know if I've told you that one, because I'm always afraid I'm repeating stories all the time. But it was an interesting interaction where I think illustrates the Elihu doctrine. Okay, a couple of you haven't heard it. Okay, I'll keep this brief. Back in 2000 and the early 2000s, I left Cincinnati in 2003. So it was I think it was summer of, because I left in December 2003. So it was probably summer of 2003, I believe. Billy Graham had one of his last crusades in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he was down at Paul Brown Stadium, the football stadium. And I had a group of, I was the youth minister at the church, like Phil is here now. And I had a group of youth, and we had a bus, and we took them downtown to a youth rally that was going to happen to a youth rally, and it was in the stadium, and it was huge. So we get out there, we park the bus, people are coming in, and so we're walking up to the stadium, and there's a commotion going on in front of us. I mean, not a bad commotion, but you could tell something was happening. So we're walking toward that. I wasn't terribly concerned about it, neither was anybody else. And we get up there closer, and it turns out there's a single guy out there, and he's got a sign. And the sign says, Billy Graham is sending people to hell. Which, any of you who know Billy Graham, that's a very interesting sign. I'm not sure what the deal was. And so, obviously, I don't agree with what the man's sign said. So all these people were going into Billy Graham. They were walking by this guy, and I realized the commotion were the people walking into the stadium were yelling at this guy. And it was this very interesting moment where all of these people who were going in to hear the gospel from Billy Graham at this youth rally were all screaming and yelling at this guy and calling him names. And then I suddenly realized as the guy would talk back, he had a horrendous stuttering problem. And, even in my early 20s when I was down there for this, I could tell the guy was mentally ill. He was not well. And he was trying, and I had this moment where all of these good Christians who are going in to hear Billy Graham speak were just lambasting this guy because they were annoyed by him. And he was annoying. I'm not disputing that. But they were treating that guy like a piece of garbage on the street because he was a mentally ill man. He had a big crazy beard, and he may not have had a shirt on. I mean, it was just kind of a crazy thing. And he had the sign that Billy Graham sending people to hell. And he stuttered. I mean, he could hardly speak because he was stuttering so badly. And people would yell at him, and he would try to respond. He would stutter, and everybody would laugh and point at. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. I wanted so bad to just walk up to the guy and just say, "Can I take you somewhere?" Just to get him out of there because it was ugly. It was just ugly. And ruined the whole youth event for me because all I could think of is all these good Christians who were screaming at the stuttering guy out in the parking lot. And I feel like that situation illustrates Elihu very well. Those people were angry that their kids are having to walk by somebody say, "Hey, you're going to go to hell if you go in there." Okay. I don't want anybody talking. I wouldn't want anybody talking to my kids that way. I didn't like anybody talking to my youth group kids that way. And I didn't like the visual. So I wasn't like, I was like, yeah, that guy's probably right. It wasn't like that. But I was more ashamed of the Christians who were yelling back at this guy. And it wasn't like, let's enter into a debate. It's like, let's make fun of the stuttering guy before he bites one of us. I mean, that's kind of what it was. And it was awful. I feel like what was happening that day is the good Christians in the crowd were being Elihu. They felt that they were morally superior to this guy. And look, maybe they were. But and who knows? I mean, I don't know what the guy's point was. Maybe he had one, but I didn't get to hear what it was. I just felt like I would, let's just say by the time we got in the stadium, we got sat down, I was not in any mood to hear about Jesus. Because all I wanted to do was walk around and punch some people and say, "Are you listening to this gospel of grace and mercy?" Because there wasn't a lot of that going on outside. And because, punching people at a Jesus rally is what pastors probably should be doing. But you understand what I'm saying? It was so awful that it ruined the whole experience. I feel like that's where Elihu's at. Elihu probably has a point. Okay? He probably has a point to make. And again, he's not one of the ones condemned by God at the end for being wrong. Only the first three friends are. We can debate on why Elihu was left out. But I feel like Elihu's passion and his conviction got in the way of the gospel of, the grace and mercy that we all want to talk about. I feel like his emotion got ahead of him. That's what happened to that crowd at the Billy Graham crusade. They were all about, let's destroy this guy instead of let's try to help him. Because nobody was trying to help this guy. I'm ashamed to say not even me. And I was wrong for that. But it was getting ugly, and I hope the police came and got that guy before those good Christians just trampled him, because that's what was about to happen. And I feel like that kind of passion sometimes causes good people to make poor decisions. And I feel like that's where Elihu's at. His mouth got out in front of his brain. His mouth got out in front of his heart. And the passion and the energy. And look, we were all young once. We remember what that feels like. Just got the best of him. And it ended up destroying any witness they could have had. Elihu's probably a fine young man. He says some pretty awful things here, and I'm sure that Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar pulled him aside and said, "Young man, don't you ever do that again." I'm sure he got one of these, but he allowed his passion to get in front of his common sense. And now what he's arguing is the exact thing he's contradicting. He's arguing for the sovereignty of God and how God doesn't make mistakes and God is just by condemning a man whose family was just crushed under a house and who has big sores on his body because he's sick and he lost his wealth and he lost his flocks and his herds and his fields. He lost all that stuff. If God is a God of grace and mercy, again, if God's big thing is justice and fairness, what is fair about Elihu raking Job over the coals for 5 chapters? He's contradicting the argument he's trying to make by his actions. So where the other 3 guys kind of take a position of a theological position where, we can say, well, that's probably not how things are. Bildad's, God is fair. Eliphaz, God helps those who help themselves. Zophar's arguments that he made about how, things should go well for you if you'll do what's right. Those are theological arguments. Elihu's argument is an emotional argument. And I believe that's why he's tacked on the end, is because emotion is what you need to watch out for. Job was making him angry. Job was making Elihu angry. And it wasn't like Job set out to do that. Look, all Job had was a catastrophe. And when people came to accuse him, all he was willing to say was, no, none of that, no. And Elihu's passion got out in front of him. So where the other 3 guys are presenting arguments that can be refuted, Elihu is showing you what happens when you allow emotion to get in front of your brain. Just like this young man outside the Billy Graham crusade. That was almost 20 years ago. I still remember that like it was yesterday. I don't know what I could have done. I wish I had done something because I was just as culpable as all those other people who were ready to run this guy over with their car. So, it was sad, Teresa, no doubt about it. And Eric says, everybody's got a story to tell. Clearly, this young man was crying out for help. Clearly. It was heartbreaking. And I just, I feel like that's why Elihu's in the story. And I know we didn't get to all of his stuff that he had to say, but his main warning is to be very careful about being emotional. Now, look, and we're going to get to this here in just a second, but tomorrow morning, we're going to have a worship service right out here in the parking lot. Our first worship service in 6 weeks or something. I'm sitting here right now feeling emotional about that because I can't hardly wait. I cannot hardly freaking wait to get out there. The sermon's probably not going to be any good, and the sound quality is not going to be what it normally is. Nothing's going to be normal. You're not going to be able to see. We're going to do the best we can, but you're probably not going to be able to hear. And you know what? I still can't wait. I still can't wait to get there and just see all you guys. And so am I saying, well, there should never be emotion in relating to God? No, that's false. There should be emotion in relating to God. The warning here is when you allow your emotion to get the better of you. Because what Elihu is saying is incorrect. Why? Because he got too emotional about this. He was, as he continues on through these 5 chapters, he gets more and more biting and more sarcastic because he became more and more angry. So the final warning of the book of Job is, yes, we need to have our theology together correctly, and we need to have the right view of God, and we need to be right, right in our actions and right in our beliefs. Of course, clearly we should. But the other part of that is we want to be careful about what happens to that emotion, and what that emotion does and what that emotion causes us to do. Because look, it's not like Job was threatening anyone. He wasn't saying, I'm so mad at God for doing this to me that I'm going to run around and stab people. He never says anything like that. The only threat that Job presents to anyone is and we've talked about this a couple times up till now, is he risks crushing their worldview. Elihu is going to fight for his worldview down to the last stand because his own worldview is more important than what's true. That's where the emotion comes from. He ain't gonna give it up. And so to Elihu, defending the way he sees the world was more important than refuting Job or helping Job come out of his opportunity. Yeah, Cheryl, it is a good opportunity to do what Jesus would do, and many times we miss that because we're busy living in our own little world, like Elihu was. He'd already decided the parameters and how all this was going to work, and Job was a threat to that. Therefore, Job has to be destroyed. And man, there's few things in the world that will get somebody more fired up than to threaten their worldview, to threaten their comfort zone. People get real feisty about that one, and that's why Elihu kind of got his nose out of joint, is because if Job is right, if Job really did nothing, if this disaster really befell Job for no explainable reason on Job's behalf, then Elihu has to give up his worldview. And as we've noticed with all three of the other guys, nobody wants to do that. Elihu was there the whole time, with his popcorn and his little banner saying, "Go Elihu, go Bildad, go Zophar." And when those guys failed to win the argument and defend Elihu's worldview, Elihu got a little fired up about that, which people tend to do. So it's a very good lesson for us to see, is about when you become emotional, you better ask yourself what you're emotional about. Because if we went to Elihu and said, "Elihu, you seem really angry about this. You seem really emotional about this. Can you tell me a little bit about what that comes from?" Elihu's answer would have been, I'm fired up because I'm God's great defender, which I might remind you, God does not need. But that's what he'd say. I'm here defending God. Well, that's not what I read going on here. That's not what I hear him saying. To me, he's defending himself. I've got this figured out, and I'm not interested in having my worldview turned upside down, because I've kind of decided how all this is going to be. Scott says Elihu is a young man, emotional, lacking wisdom and experience, as young people typically are. That is true. And I've become, now that I'm in my mid 40s, I'm much better about that than I was in my mid 20s. I could tend to get a little feisty in my 20s, but too old and tired for that now. But yeah. So, all right. So that's Elihu. Let me read. Let me read one little. Thanks, Scott. Let me read just one little part here. We'll finish up with Elihu with this. We'll talk a little bit about tomorrow. This is Job 37. This is kind of the beginning of the end of of Elihu's closing statement. My heart pounds as I think of this. It trembles within me. I mean, do you feel the emotion in that? My heart's pounding. You listen carefully to the thunder of God's voice as it rolls from his mouth, rolls across the heavens, and his lightning flashes in every direction. Then comes the roaring of the thunder, the tremendous voice of his majesty. He does not restrain it when he speaks. God's voice is glorious in the thunder. We can't even imagine the greatness of his power. That's an emotional statement. I don't even disagree with the content. What I disagree with is the application. Do I think God is majestic and his voice is like thunder? You better believe I do. But when he speaks, I much prefer to allow God to speak for himself rather than Pastor Tim going out and defending God, because I feel like if God wants that done, he can do it himself and do a much better job than me. So, all right. That leads us directly to Job 38. And if you would look at Job 38, God starts talking. So that's another thing to think about, is when the three friends said, "All right, Job, you got us. Whatever." Elihu immediately jumps up and goes on for a 5-chapter rant. And I didn't read it all to you, but from what I did read, you could tell it was fiery. Okay, you get that. Again, according to the way the book of Job records this, God starts talking the moment Elihu shuts up. So maybe this is a challenge. When was the last time your emotion clouded out God's voice? Because that's exactly what happens here. God could have had a chance to speak 5 chapters sooner if Elihu would have shut up. Just a thought, Now remember Zophar's argument. Zophar's argument was God is sovereign and we should be speaking to him with great respect, and God doesn't really care what's going on with us, and you shouldn't be bothering God with those kind of details. That was Zophar's thing. But Elihu's not doing that. Elihu's words are not directed at God at all. Elihu's words are directed at Job. And because of his great emotion, kind of spilling out of his mouth at Job, God just sits back and says, well, I'm just kind of wait till you're done. So when was the last time your emotion at a situation drowned out God's voice? That's probably something we all should think about. So, all right, my friends, I think we've come to the end of the Ballad of Elihu. If you got any closing comments about that, please stick them in the chat. And while you're typing those up, let me say a couple words about tomorrow, and we're going to wrap up here tonight because I need to go home and get in bed. I got a big morning tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I sent out the link for First Light. If you don't have the link for First Light, just click on our Wayne Street YouTube channel, and you should see it there amongst the videos. It will premiere at 8:30 in the morning, and I intend to be here live chatting that. I'm coming down early to help set up the speakers and such, as I was inviting people to earlier. So I'll be down here doing that, and I'll be in here to my office, and I'll be live chatting the First Light service. My plan is any of you who want to help direct parking, I would like to have a meeting with you in the parking lot by the Lutheran church, so on the Lutheran side of our church. I'd like for you to come over there at 10 o'clock. Again, I don't need a whole bunch of people, but if a few of you would be there, that would be awesome. And I'll give you some directions on how we want to park people, and I'll need you to direct that for me because I can't do that myself. So we'll be doing that, filling up the parking lots and getting people parked in here as best we can. And then I'll have to go do some sound checks and things with the band. So that's what we're looking at for tomorrow. Please remember to bring your communion elements. We will be having communion as a part of our service. We've got some special things planned, as just being here is going to be special. So we will be recording the service, and we will be recording the service. It will be uploaded to YouTube as quickly after the service as we can get it to load, which means probably a couple of hours later, because it takes a while for that to show up on YouTube. But we'll get it there. So that's the plan for tomorrow. I hope you all will be able to come out. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. The rain has kind of steadily retreated from the weather forecast for tomorrow. So it's going to be a nice day. We're going to set up the band. Will be set up under the overhang out here by the main entrance by the sanctuary. And we're going to try that, see how it works. And then, because we're probably going to be having these outdoor services for a couple of weeks until we can get back inside the building, and we'll have all kind of social distancing rules around that. Please remember, we're going to do the best we can to keep the service to 45 minutes because there will be no access to the building. I can't let you come in and use the restroom. We can't do that because if I let everybody come in and go to the bathroom, we might as well be inside the church. So I can't let you in. So please keep that in mind. Again, we will keep things moving so we can get everybody out. But just know that that's going to be a reality. Some of the band and stuff will be getting equipment and things out of the church, but I can't just let the general population in because I just can't. So please keep that in mind. So thank you, Linda. I hope you'll be here for that, and we'll see everybody for First Light hopefully too. So And then we'll be back here for tomorrow night because we are going to literally hear the word of the Lord tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. So we'll be setting that up and getting that out there. And any prayers that you got for tomorrow, I'm not going to lie. I know we're not supposed to worry about anything and all that. I'm not worried, but I just want this to go well because you folks are, you always deserve to have it to go well. And I want to be able to be a part of it going well. So thank you for that. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. As always, you honor me with your presence. I appreciate you sharing your evening with me. I love you all very much. Hope to see you in the morning, either at the First Light premiere on YouTube or here in the parking lot tomorrow morning. Appreciate you all very much. And gosh, seems like something y'all need to go do now. Oh, what's that? Go wash your hands, my friends.